Thank you, Rob. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here for a second time. Round two.
This time with videos, so you can finally show off your art.
I'm here.
Yeah. But what we were just talking about, because I do kind of want to get into it, because I think it's relevant to me in my life at the moment, but also I think just an interesting conversation is about managing how much weed you smoke, you know? And what I was just telling you, this is for the audience, but what I was just telling you is that like I haven't smoked since January 3rd. And I think I keep setting the goal as a month. So basically I just keep pushing it back. So, my first goal was just get to the end of January, see how you feel. I got to the end of January. I was like, let's go another month. Let's go to February. Now I'm thinking like my goal, I'm not saying I'm going to get there, but my goal is actually now to go to my birthday, which is May 3rd. So I want to see if I can make it all the way there. We'll see. 420, I might make an exception because it's a holiday, whatever. But for me, I think I realized that my usage of weed was just always, it was like habitual as like one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it was that it was actually like almost a coping mechanism of dealing with the stress.
I feel you.
When I was working that retail job, I was like so stressed all the time, and I felt like I never had time to unwind, and so weed would allow me to unwind without actually unwinding.
Yeah, it's just like an instant unwind.
It's an instant unwind.
You can go to it, just pack a bowl with your vaporizer, whatever, just go for it, and you're feeling better than how you were feeling when you were at work.
Yeah, and it's a cheat code, but it also is like a bad thing if that's how you're using it, because then you're not really relaxing, you're not really unwinding, and you're not really dealing with the thing that's causing you the stress.
Yeah, still
you're
that
temporarily relieving it. Yeah. So, in your usage of weed, when did you first start smoking?
Sophomore year, or it was the end of freshman year. Yeah, remember
of high school or college?
High school. Yeah. So it's been 2007.
Yeah.
So I've been smoking for a while. There was a time where I did stop for a little bit, probably because I got in trouble, but it was only like a matter of a month or so or something like that. But smoking weed. And then once I got introduced to like hash, that was a whole other game. It's like a whole new world. This like concentrated weed.
Oh yeah.
Tastes amazing. Like that's what I really like right now, is more of going for something that's super tasty and kind of clean, and not knowing that, they use solvents. So not knowing that there's no butane or whatever, CO2, or I think they use CO2, but knowing that there was none of that in there, it's just so nice, and kind of just wanting to keep doing that. But now I'm just treating it as like a medicine instead of just something that it's just like I've got to wake up and wake and bake kind of thing, or just like before I eat food, let's smoke some weed. Let's smoke some weed. Taking a break at work, smoke some weed kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it is fun.
Oh, for sure.
And it's recreational in Illinois, so you can't have fun with it.
You're allowed to,
So it's people like drinking a lot, so people shouldn't be drinking all day, every day, right when they wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that
look at it like that, then
it's actually an interesting parallel too, because when you think about it, how often does somebody who drinks, how often do they have weeks that they don't? Like, meaning in one weekend night, or, so if people are going out every weekend, in all the years that you've been drinking, how many weekends have you just not drank?
Right.
And I think that question might actually scare some people, and they'll be like, dude, I honestly don't remember.
Yeah. It's like, why wouldn't they? What, they don't see it as a problem. Maybe it's not even a problem, but it's just, if you look at it, what you're putting into yourself and then what you're not. Like, did you have a candy bar today? No. Did you have it for 3 months? No. You probably feel a lot better for not having candy, because I know I love fucking candy.
Oh yeah, I have a sweet tooth.
It's terrible.
I'm an addict.
I love
I'm a sugar
and
addict.
Candy. It's terrible, and I know it's terrible for me. But I go to the gym, take care of myself, and it's like, there's just that point where you go to the gas station and you see something that you like. You're like, what? I'm just gonna grab one. It's 60 cents. Let's have whatever, and it might be super terrible for you, and sometimes you just do it anyways. But
and I think you're allowed to indulge yourself every once in a while.
Self-control.
I think the key is definitely the self-control and the conscious decision. If you're choosing to do it and you know fully what you're doing with it, that's fine. It's when it's that automatic, like, it's after 5 p.m. time to buy the candy bar, whatever. That's when it's like, okay, you got a bit of a problem there.
Yeah. there's just moderation, time and place kind of thing. If you already had one yesterday, you don't really need one again the next day or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So.
And with sugar specifically, your body will tell you do need more.
I know that the bacteria that, builds up in there, it tells your brain that it wants more.
It literally, it's a craving. It's a real craving. I think sugar is actually my next thing that I'm trying to kick.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to struggle, and I'm going to relapse on that a lot more than weed. Weed's easy to stop. It honestly is.
You just don't smoke it.
You just don't. You don't buy it. You don't have it. You're fine. And the same premise is with candy too, right? Like you just don't buy the candy.
Yep.
But it is easier to justify the purchase of the candy than it is to justify the purchase of weed.
Yeah, because you're like, it's just sugar or candy or whatever, a treat. This one's a whole thing that gets you, other than sober.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because we were talking about that. But I do want to have you talk about your glass making, because on the last one we got to talk about it, but no one could really see your work. And on top of that, I think describing the process is definitely something that involves, like, you got to be able to see what patterns we're looking at. Definitely. So for people listening to this podcast, you can still listen to it. I'm sure it's still going to be entertaining, but you should probably watch this one. So you got a couple pieces of glass here. And I do want you to kind of like point out the differences in these.
Most definitely.
Let's start with the one with kind of like the spirals and shit with the green.
This one right here?
Yeah.
So I made that one for.
Oh, and that won't be in
hash.
the shot. You might want.
Oh, gotcha. So I made this one for smoking hash. I mean, you could smoke weed out of it too. But so this part is technically
called. You want to hold it up?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
It's called line work. So how they make this is just picture this piece of the tubing, and then they take glass rods, which just looks like a stick. Basically, they come in different sizes, 6 millimeter, 7 millimeter. So they'll fill this tubing, just like the outside lining, with it, and they'll put another tube that's smaller inside of there. So once that's all said and done, you heat everything up, and then you stretch it down, and that gives you, this section to work with.
Sure.
So that's me like pulling a little piece and just doing some twisting, switchbacks, or what they call wigwags. So yeah.
And the wigwag is where it gets kind of like the wave.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So like this part of it.
Yeah.
Just a wave. And then the way these are done is called doing a termination, where all the lines meet at the end. So you can kind of, do a spiral or just straight up, straightness. It kind of looks like a balloon sometimes when you don't twist them at all. But there's so many things you can do with it. You can do all colors. And what's nice about this is when it's working, all the colors have different densities. So like some colors will heat up faster compared to another one. Like a black is way denser than like some of these whites. So when you're puffing out the work, they might have more black on one side compared than the white. So this is technically going to puff out farther, or easier
because of the density of the color.
Because of how easy. Yeah. So it's like if you think of blowing a bubble with gum, and you have like a chunkier part like on one part of your tongue, and then you blow it, and it kind of like it goes farther because there's more of it, and the other part that's thinner doesn't go as far. It's basically how this is. So that's kind of how I think of it.
What kind of tool do you use to add more air to it? Like,
so when this is on technically what they call a blow tube, so it's just like a straight piece of glass that's like comes in different sizes, like 9 millimeter was mostly what I work with, or 12 mil. So that's you're working with this and you're spinning it like that, where it's on the handle, a blow tube. So once you're all done with it, then you have to just take it off and kind of open up this. But that's how you can introduce air, is by having the blow tube and either having like a hose that's like connected to like an adapter to the end of it, or you can just like have the tube and it runs and you just blow into it, or you can move the tube to your mouth and actually blow into it.
Hence why it's called glass blowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you literally have to blow air into it, and that's what's going to shape it as it's really hot.
So yeah, if you think of like all of these as like a bubble, like this is just like a little Sherlock. So this was just like a straight tube too. So like I'll heat it up, stretch it down, and then this was like the bubble end of it. So if you think of like the roundedness, I'll heat up just the quarter of it, maybe a little bit more, and then just flatten it, or just let it fall on itself, because that's the only part that's getting hot. So whatever's hot is what is actually going to move.
Got it.
So if it's like a bubble and I'm heating only the front of it, this is going to sink in because of gravity, or if it's going to fall if I have it, just doing it
depending on
direction.
The angle that you're spinning it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and there's all types of things. Like the one I was just holding up, this is done with fuming. So I'll burn actual like silver, like.
Sorry. Just like for the shot itself is like pretty much like the mic and up. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotta remember that. So yeah, this is done with silver fuming. So I'll burn a little bit of silver. I got some more stuff over here.
And that will change, for people who don't know, that will change colors as you smoke, because it will build up the residue, and it usually turns like blue or greenish. Like, there's different colors you can get out of it.
Technically, you can get the whole spectrum of the rainbow just by using silver. It's a science project to get that done, experiment. But yeah, I can achieve really easily the blues in kind of like a whitish color. But yeah, this one's just like a little vessel. And so you could drink out of instead of just smoking out of the things. I make other things other than, I'm wearing a pendant that I'm wearing or that I make. So,
nice.
There's a lot of things you can do with glass.
Oh, yeah. And I know that last time you were talking about like making sculptures. So how much have you dabbled into the things outside of just the just like the pipes, and because pipes are probably like your moneymaker. It's probably easier to sell those.
Way easier. There's a lot of smokers out there compared to people buying like figures or other kind of things. I mean, people do buy cups too, but it's more. I mostly sell a lot of pipes. So, but the sculpture wise, I've only done like a couple. Like animal sculptures. I've done like a turtle. I've done a seahorse. That was pretty cool. I made like a whole recycler seahorse. It took like 12 hours, but I actually sold that one.
Did you do that straight? 12 hours straight?
It was in pieces. So like I'll start on the prep for it. That takes time. I'll build the pieces and then I'll put it together. That all takes time. So the total was around 12 hours.
Is there a number of times that you can heat something up and reheat it, or like will it get to a point where it's just gonna fucking break?
If you overwork the glass, it can kind of get this thing called devitrification. So it's basically like the molecules inside of the glass just being overworked, and they're just kind of done with it. They're like, you heat me up and stretch me out too much. It's not going to work anymore. It's just going to have this like haziness and kind of just basically like a frosty, like it looks like sandblasting, but it's not. Like, so it's kind of ruined. But yeah.
Have you ever had times where you've like just overworked something? And...
when I was learning for sure, because you can heat something up. There's it's working in heat bases. That's what it's called. So like if you think of glass as a liquid, it starts off solid. You heat it up, and then it gets to like a sticky tack kind of texture first, and then it'll get to like a Laffy Taffy kind of texture where if you hold it up, it's gonna flop over. And then when you get to the last one where it's basically like honey, so it's like hot honey that's just like flowing. So it's like water, it just flows. So you have to work in those heat ranges just to like achieve what you need to do.
Sure. So what would, since there's different levels to it, what would the first level of heat be used for in the process, and like kind of break down each level of heat on why you would want it to be in that consistency?
So basically, like, let's start from like the honey section. If you wanted something to like just really flow and just get out of, like, maybe you're just tearing off the end of a tube, you heat it really hot, and then you would be able to tear it off way easier than if you were just to like heat it and then try to pull it. You want to just work with the glass instead of actually like forcing it to do what you want it to do. So it's kind of like, so you work with the hottest point of it, that's the most flowing, so you can get it out of there, do what you need to do. The tacky part is more of like you want to stretch it, kind of just like get it to stay. Like if you think of like Laffy Taffy, it's kind of like you can really stretch it and it kind of almost stays. But yes, you do that. And then the sticky tack would be like if you just wanted to like stick something to it, like another, what they call a punty, which is basically just a rod of glass, but you would use it to hold on to it. So you'd have your blow tube, and then you would have the punty, and you'd just be able to work whatever you need. Because sometimes if you're working in the middle, that all gets floppy on you because it's you're going through the heat bases. So you have to like what they call a be the lathe, which is a machine that's it's fixed, so it's always spinning, but you have to be that kind of lathe and just spin it constantly and evenly. So yeah.
How often do you use a lathe versus you are the lathe, like in your process?
I personally like hand spinning this stuff. It's a lot harder on you because it's
physical.
It's heavy. Sometimes you're doing it over and over for 8 hours or whatever, so it does wear on you. We do have a lathe at our studio, but I haven't spent too much time on it just because we have someone that works on there, so he's mostly on it. He doesn't really do the hand spinning stuff, so it's kind of like I do that. I'll maybe like build parts for him on the bench, and then he'll take it to the lathe and put it together. So it's kind of like a team effort, and then we just sell it in our store.
Nice. Yeah, like I was going to say, how is that process? So, you're in a studio. Obviously, it's probably pretty difficult to be a singular glass blower in a studio. You probably always have to have people with you, a team of people. How does that process work from like a business level of like you have your glass blowers, you got to get them out to places. You were telling me before you sell them either individually, like on your own online store, or you're selling them to head shops and whatnot. What does that look like?
So it's more of, you make your stuff and then kind of just go out and sell it. You have a wholesale price, you have a resale price or retail. So yeah, you just kind of get yourself out there by getting into these stores that kind of have Instagrams or that like promote other glass artists and buy expensive pieces or whatever. So yeah, we make the stuff and we kind of just sell it at our store, or we go other places that want our work and sell it there.
Nice. And so that requires a lot of relationships that you got to build with the different shops around the city and, different, even other glass blowers too, right? Like,
Yeah, there's, I've been meeting more and more glass blowers that actually like work in Chicago or Illinois. I work in Hammond, Indiana, so that's where our store is. So I've met some people that are in Indiana, mostly in like Fort Wayne. There's like a nice community over there. Indianapolis has a nice community. I think their college might have a good community or like a program there. But yeah, there's mostly in the more legal states. We're legal now in Illinois, but yeah, there's a ton of glass blowers in like California, Oregon, Colorado. They're making some really nice stuff, and they can sell it for good amount of prices because of there's more people that have money there as far as like their grow operations and have money that they kind of need to like put into something. So
yeah, and the demand is there too because more people are able to smoke without repercussions of the law. And so when that you have the ability to smoke, like different people want different pieces, people break their pieces, that happens all the time. So
yeah,
I think all of those things are definitely going to just only cause this industry to boom. How many people, and it's okay if you don't know the number, how many people glass blow in America, like roughly?
I have no idea. It's hard to say. They did a documentary called Degenerate Art, and it's about glass blowing. And they were saying there's around like 50,000, but this was made like 8 or almost 10 years ago. So there's more. There's exactly. There's states that have been legal now and more glass blowers and
So if it was 50,000 8 years ago, then I could see it doubling in that time from the number of states that have legalized.
I feel like I follow maybe 5 new glass blowers almost every day, or every time that I go swiping through Instagram or whatever, or I'll see it in one of my friends' posts or whatever, and I see the glass that they have. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know about this person. And then you look at their page and they have all these followers and they're making amazing pieces. And yeah, it's just like, wow, I didn't even know about you.
Yeah. How much has the online game changed your strategy personally?
I mean, I have pieces all over the place just because of the internet. I mean, I wouldn't even know any of these people from like Australia that I never shipped anything overseas, but like they know about my work just because of seeing other people that they follow and them posting my work. And it's just, I mean, you can get through the internet really fast and just find things.
Sure. So, and have you like set up, like, do you have like an Etsy or?
Mostly just Instagram.
So you just straight up Instagram DM?
Yeah. I don't have like a website you can go to, or I should probably do that. But
yeah, I was gonna say, have you thought about it?
I've thought about it for sure. I actually just like working with stores a lot, and then kind of like doing the in-person kind of sales too. It's just like directly.
It's more personal.
Yeah, Instagram's fun too, but I kind of.
I mean, it's free. It's free money to some degree, right? Like you didn't have to work that hard for it. You just posted something you're proud of.
And someone's like, "I'll buy that," just ship it to me.
Well, because I remember. You posted one of your buddies, what's his Instagram handle? Carl Eifler?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl Eifler. Okay. Shout out to his work, because his work's dope. I do want to eventually get one of his things. But he posted something with some crazy, like, he makes some like orb shit that was like just very symmetrical and kind of has that like mandala look.
Definitely.
And I remember messaging him like, hey, do you have like a page that has like all of your stuff? And he didn't either. And so I think that might be an innovation for glassblowers, where if you guys all have pages that legit shows everything, instead of having to scroll through an Instagram.
Right.
And then also like, you know, having, it's always negotiable. Glasses, I think, you know, as any art, right? Anybody, any as a painter, it's always a little negotiable on the price. But like you have a price range or something that you kind of put on there.
Definitely.
And just having it as like one big page that has every piece. I think it just makes it easier for somebody who wants your stuff to find it and to make the call to do it.
I see it. Yeah, they probably don't like want to bother the person if they're like, you know, just waiting for them to respond and they really just want it. They can just say add to cart and send it. Yeah, that's probably a nicer way to do it too.
And nowadays they make it so easy to make those stores. I mean, you know, built into like Squarespace, like you can easily just build a store into it. Or you know, Etsy is an option too. I know a lot of artists use Etsy for stuff. So
I've seen people use like Big Cartel. I don't know about that one.
Oh, I haven't heard of it, but
yeah, it's just like another little shopping thing like Etsy. But I should try that out. Yeah, my friend Carl, he's actually moved back to Illinois, and so yeah, if you ever want to do a podcast with him, I'm sure he'd be down.
Yeah, no, I definitely would. I messaged him a little bit about some of his pieces that I liked. And he told me the price, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm like, I'm not like ready to spend that yet, but I'm like, I would. Like, I like his pieces.
Yeah, he works really hard. I actually learned some of the fuming techniques that he does from him. My other mentor, he was my mentor. Carl he's a friend, but he also taught me some stuff. But yeah, fuming is pretty hard because you're just, you know, burning the metals, and you use gold and silver, and the ratio of those two get you different colors. So yeah, it's kind of like a science experiment where you're just like using different flame chemistries and how much oxygen compared to propane's in the flame, and like how far the metal is from the face of the torch, or how long you're heating it up, or there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, it sounds like a really complicated formula, because you got to think about, you know, what kind of shape am I looking for? What colors do I want to emit from it? Exactly. And then, of course, the actual formation of the glass is its own other aspect of it. So how do you juggle all of those things? Like, do you find yourself truly thinking about it on a conscious level, or are you at the point where it's a fairly unconscious activity where you kind of just know? It's like a feeling.
Well, you can definitely get that feeling from glass, because some people just go by like looking at the glass and like seeing what heat base it's at. But you can, when you're hand spinning, you can actually, you're feeling it. So you can know when it's like, oh, this is like, I can actually stretch this. I can blow into it and it's going to go to this size that I want it to go to. But yeah, there's been times where I can make like, you know, simple things. If they take like this one's got a lot of pieces in it. So like, this is his own one piece. This was his own piece. This was my own, you know, I put a lot of attachments onto it.
Yeah. And so you morphed it all into one big thing.
Yeah. So it's a lot of just building the pieces and then like just putting them all together and, you know, doing it in the right process. So that one took, like, I've only made a couple of those. So that one took about 8 hours, but it was more of me kind of like, should I do this first? Should I do that first? So like planning ahead of time is really helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll just wing it and go for it, but that makes the process a little bit longer, I think, for me. But it's also like more like fun. I don't feel as pressured to like, you know, stick to a plan. But when that plan does work, it's kind of like silly not to follow it. You know?
Yeah, well,
especially if you're
satisfying.
Doing a production piece where you want to make all of them the same, depending on what you're going for. Some people like to make just a one-off piece, just one piece, and they'll move on to another design. So it's hard to make things that they weigh. Some people, you know, you're a good glass blower when you can weigh out your pipes and they're all the same like weight.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, that seems hard. I don't know how anybody could make the same piece over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, because every time you have a chance to do it slightly differently. So what is your process? Like, how often do you mass make, you know, basically the same form factor, the same shape?
I'll do that when I get like an order from a shop or something like that. So if they want just like chillums or like spoons, I don't have any spoons with me, but like just smaller things, I'll just crank out a bunch of them because they might want to just sell them for a certain price too. So I won't spend too much time if they only want to sell it for $15, you know. But I can make something that's like wholesale is half that price. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd imagine Chillum, just on the basis of what it is for anybody who isn't watching it. I mean, it's literally just like a little. It's like a little straight pipe.
This is
basically
probably like a couple inches, inch and a half, 2 inches. You know,
yeah.
So.
And that's probably pretty easy to just keep replicating the same thing. It's not a lot of glass either.
Definitely not. This one's a little bit more. This has the line work that's into it. This one's called a re-wig. So I make the wig wag, and then I'll do that wig wag process again to it. So that's why it's called the re-wig. But so that takes a lot of time. Like one of these little balls, it's like 20 minutes. I should put it in the picture. But yeah, just this one little piece is about 20 minutes, at least for me. Some people are faster, but I just like to take my time, and I've never actually tried to like rush do things. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's your craft. So if you're rushing through it, it's like, well, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to rush through things, then you set your price to what it, should be,
Yeah. Now, do you feel like people in the glass industry are paid appropriately for their work, or do you feel like they're underpaid or overpaid, or what?
It's hard to justify that, as far as like some people have no problem paying for whatever your first price is. People like to bargain. I personally don't like try to like ask for less money when I'm buying from someone, just because I know, as far as a glass blower, I know what it goes into doing that.
Sure.
If it's just like an all clear piece, and I know how much like the materials really cost, but there's just that aspect of just like respecting the price. If that's what they're asking for,
sure,
they feel justified to ask for it, and they should probably get it.
Yeah.
But so I get asked to lower the price a good amount of time. Sometimes I'll take it, depending on like if they're buying a bunch of pieces, or it's a repeat customer and I know they bought, like I have one customer that has like a collector, I should say. He has like 20 of my pieces, so he gets a good price when he's definitely like shopping a lot. And, it's not like I'm trying to play favorites or anything, but I know I don't even know this person. I know him through Instagram,
Yeah, so. But if you got a consistent client and you know that they're going to keep coming back, like, then you can cut them a deal because they're going to keep buying your shit.
He's already has been, and there's multiple people that do that, so I'm very thankful for them. And definitely cut them a deal, throw some extra stuff in there. If it's a piece that like I really am staying firm on the price, like one of these that takes me 8 hours to make, I probably won't drop it down like at all. Maybe
you shouldn't.
$5, or like I'll cover the shipping or something like that.
Yeah. But respect your work, right? Because it's your time, it's your craft. And, I guess that's really what it comes down to. Anytime you're doing any freelancing gig, like you have to factor in the amount of time that you're putting into it. Obviously materials are an easy cost that you can really like 100% be like, all right, well, I know exactly how much this glass costs. I know how much I used of it and whatever. But then when you got to factor in your time, how much is your time worth? Where ideally over time, as you get better at it, your time becomes worth more purely based on the skill level that you're at.
Definitely.
And you should be paid according to that. I think, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, especially if you have like 20 years into, your craft. And some people don't get as much as they want because of, it's also like where you're at too. So if you're like in Indiana and there's not a big community of smokers, and because it's illegal, you're not going to have someone that's going to have like $6,000 or whatever amount of money to spend on a piece, because you can do it legally or whatever. If it's, they have a risk of it getting taken away, why would they spend that much money on something like that if it potentially might get taken away from them and they just lost all their money?
Oh, without a doubt.
But
so that's the argument for the online store.
Yeah.
Because then you can have your sales not just dependent upon your local area, but then of course, you can make the bulk of your work be the stuff you're going to sell to local vendors or local sales, but then you have the option for somebody to buy your high-end thing who purely want it from the design standpoint. I've seen so many cool pieces of glass where I'm like, dude, if I had money like that, I would still buy that just for the sake of that. It's fucking cool.
Yeah, seriously. Like I remember my one friend bought a piece and he thought it was probably going to be like 6 inches tall, and ended up being like double that. And it was just this huge recycler. And he was just like, wow, picture was a little deceiving, but I'm still happy with it.
Yeah.
So, there's that part of it too. So I always like to, especially with glass, I like to have it in my hand and be like, all right, I'll drop that money on it. That's how I kind of like to buy, at least. But I have bought stuff on the internet that I've never even held. So,
oh yeah,
I'm guilty of that too.
What do you think that you've learned, like, from life, from the process of learning, making glass, making mistakes? Like, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you've taken from going on this endeavor?
Just patience. Patience is one thing, as far as like, you can't rush things, especially if you want it to be quality, you got to put the quality time into it. And just don't be too hard on yourself either. People we're not robots.
Yeah.
So if I make something and I break it, like I was telling you, I made that piece, I spent, I think close to 6 hours, and I just dropped it and it was just broken. Like, I could have went home and cried or whatever, but I was like, well, that's not going to, have another piece on the table. I've just got to make another one. And that's what I did. Just started working on another one. Maybe when I first started, I might have like swore a bunch and,
oh yeah,
got super upset, but
that's human.
It's emotions. Everyone's allowed to feel emotions.
Oh, totally.
Especially when you put your like time into it and like a hard like obstacle to get past. And like, so glassblowing is not easy. It takes time to like just the basis of it, of just rotating the glass. So it takes a lot of time. I put about 4 years of total of glass. The 2 years me starting was mostly just solid stuff. I was making a lot of dabbers, pendants, carb cabs. Mm-hmm. But now I can actually blow glass. It's been like 2 years now.
Nice.
So, 2 years in that. I've had some really good teachers too, so that really helps.
How did you find your mentors?
I was collecting his work. The first one, his name is Paul Farley.
Mm-hmm.
His Instagram is Pure Organics Glass. And I bought his work from a gallery in Chicago called Made. And he told me that he was a local, and he actually lived really close to my grandma, so it was awesome. That's super convenient. Go to watch glass blowing. I've never seen it done other than videos or whatever. And then to meet the person that I was buying the piece from, that was kind of like a really intricate piece, and it had like a tube that was inside of another tube. It was for a vape pen.
Oh wow, okay. Like an attachment?
Yeah, it was like, if you remember like the ones that had like a little globe over it, and it was just like an atomizer that you would just put it on top. He made these ones that was like a bubbler that you would put on top of there.
Oh fuck.
And it made it way smoother, and I was just like, I really loved that, like vaporize, because it's good for on the go. Yeah. And I was like, this is a great attachment. Like it makes it so much more enjoyable. So I met him and watched how he made one of those, and I was just like, wow, that was like really hard to do. And I was just like intrigued. I was like, I want to do this. I really want to try. He offered to teach me, and then here we are.
And here we are from there. That's amazing. Yeah. So do you feel like you would not have gotten into glassblowing if you didn't meet a mentor, or you didn't see kind of someone else doing it first? Or
I don't know. It's hard to say that. I mean, I always liked pipes. I remember when I first started smoking, I wasn't even allowed to go into a pipe store. So one of my friends, I just bought it from him. We named it Chupacabra. It was just a pipe. It was just like, I don't remember what it looked like, trying to think back, because marijuana affects the memory. But
true that. My memory's so much better now.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
But I think it had some like green and blue swirls or whatever. But I think that one got left at a friend's house, and then they took it somewhere and then got took by the cops. So that was just like a $20 bowl. But yeah, I've always liked glass, like smoking out of glass, more than like rolling it up. I always like joints too, but blunts were just like too much because of tobacco. Nicotine was just too much there, and it ruined the high for me. I don't know if people can smoke spliffs, honestly.
I'm not a fan of spliffs, and I'm not a fan of blunts either, to be honest.
Blunts I do like. If you're at a concert, they last longer than like a joint. Sure. Like if you're in the a concert, it's windy kind of thing, it doesn't like trail as fast or burn through it as quick. But that's like once in a while kind of thing.
Yeah,
for concerts outdoors, kind of thing.
I agree.
But papers and glass. I've always loved glass. Remember we bought a bong off this website, and it ended up being super thin. It was like $100. My friend was cleaning it. I guess he had went from hot water to cold water, and it just like shattered the whole base of it. But
fuck.
Yeah, I've always liked glass. So
that's wild. So how has the legalization in Illinois helped your sales? Like, have you noticed like an uptick in demand?
Yeah, more people are smoking. They want glass. People think, I'll do like shows too. Like I just did this, it was like a medicated dinner, infused dinner. So it was pretty cool. It was on Valentine's Day at this gallery in Wicker Park. And I got to like show my glass off, and people were, eating this food that was infused, and they were drinking a little bit of wine or whatever. But it
was the wine infused as well?
No, it was just basic white red. It was kind of funny to see. It was like, I wonder if people are actually feeling the weed or if they're feeling the alcohol.
Probably a heavy dose of both.
Both for sure. But it was fun because I like to do like little pop-ups things too, where we can actually blow glass. That's a lot of fun. Where like people are just amazed by it. They're like, "You just made that pipe?" Like, "Yeah, I just made this one right here." Like, you missed it. Come back, I'll make another one. But
how could you do that in that setting where you're not in your normal studio with all the protections and all the precautions? Like, what's an on the go glass blowing experience look like?
It's got to be minimal. It's harder to bring all the tools and everything with you that are in the studio, but it's still doable. Just make easier things like
spoons,
spoons, Sherlocks. Make thinner pieces. Thinner glass doesn't. It depends on you how you work it or whatever, but it's less vulnerable to crack as long as you like flame anneal it correctly. But yeah, there's like we just did one. Was that like a kind of secret sesh kind of thing, and I didn't bring my kiln because it was only gonna be 3 hours, and I didn't want to lug that thing around by myself basically, and cause it's kind of heavy. It's smaller, but it's still heavy. But I was able to make like a few pipes that were just thinner, just like a spoon in a Sherlock, and I just let them cool on the bench. We have this Kevlar pad that you can just put it on. Kevlar doesn't steal away the heat from the glass, so it just you can hold on to it and it won't like burn you or whatever.
Yeah. So I'd imagine materials, that's got to be something that any innovations in materials can directly affect glass blowing, right? Anything, especially heat dissipation.
Yeah, like you're not gonna like grab something with like cold pliers, that's like hot, because that metal is just gonna steal that heat away.
Yep.
So like that, when I was telling you I was moving that piece, I'd grab these tongs that I heated up. You're allowed to use it like that, but I was just holding on to. I should use a different tool, and it kind of just like swung out of it, just smashed. I was just being like, "Oh, I got this. I've done it a million times." And yeah, that one time it just broke. This happened before, and I was like, I should learn my lesson from that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we got to learn the same lesson a couple times before it really sticks.
Yeah, once it's more expensive, then you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that again.
Oh, yeah.
Expensive, because I would have asked for a good amount of money for that. If I spent 6 hours on it, it would have been a nice paycheck, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, there it goes. And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine like the stakes are so much higher with glass blowing because it really is like one little thing genuinely can just completely fuck it up.
Yeah, this the success rate it's hard.
Yeah.
You'll make if you're a really good glass blower and you make things that you can make without making mistakes, and yeah, you can have a month or two or way more than that without breaking anything, But
if you're
everyone has their days. Everyone has their days, so
yeah.
Who knows what was going through my head when obviously I wasn't thinking right, because I could have used a different tool to like move it over. But yeah.
But you got to learn the lesson. I mean, like if you're pushing yourself outside of your abilities, then you're going to take some risks. You're going to do some things you haven't done before. And with that, there's going to be mistakes that are made. But ideally, you make the mistakes and you come back to it. And then the second time you try that same thing, which previously was outside of your scope of what you're capable of, all of a sudden now that's within your scope and has a higher success rate, and then eventually that becomes part of your repertoire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's worth it. You gotta take some risks sometimes. You gotta make those chances.
Yeah. When you take those risks, like when I spent 12 hours on that piece and it came out really nice, and I was just like, it was kind of cool because it ended at it was in December. So it was a great way to end the year, just on a piece and actually sold right before the new year and everything. So it's like, wow, I actually can do this.
Yeah.
So just make more of them and just keep trying to sell them. That one sat for a little bit. I think I made that and it sat for like a month and a half, but it was worth it because I got I made much money when I was working on cars for a whole 40 hours when I made in 12 hours, I guess, on that one piece. So,
and that's where the potential of making something dope and unique is you can charge a lot more for it, as you should. You know, if you're doing something that other people aren't doing, then there is that rarity factor. People love shit that people don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
They just do.
There's nothing else out there like this. You know?
Yeah, everybody loves a one of a kind. Yeah.
There might be a seahorse recycler that looks like that, but it's not the same one, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like we're made by this person, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And how have you tried to develop your sense of style? Because, you know, obviously pipes have a fixed, like, general shape that needs to be required for it to be a useful utensil. Sure. But, you know, how have you designed in a way that's Rob? Like, this is soft-spoken glass. This is, you just know it when you see it.
Right. I think a lot of this silver fume stuff that I've been doing is just kind of, like, I've been doing a lot of it. So I guess when people see it, they'll be like, yeah, Rob probably made that one. But I guess I don't have anything that's just, like, super mine, you know, because anyone that wants to learn how to fume can learn how to do that and probably do something similar. But, yeah, I actually, right now, since in my career, I guess, timing, so I've been in 4 years, I actually just like doing a lot of things that I've never done before. So just like, you know, just practice. It's just finding things that I like to make glass that I like personally. I like a lot of line work. I love fume, recyclers, you know, so that's what I try to make.
Sure.
But I don't have anything that's like mine, you know. I don't have anything that's just like, some people have, like, there's this one guy who makes just pencils, like glass pencils that look like a, you know, regular pencils, but, you know, when you see one of those, you know that's like him. And sometimes, like, that's all that they make too, you know. So I like making everything. I don't want to just like be stuck making one thing, because, I mean, why? I mean, there's one way to look at if a bunch of people really want that one thing, you should probably make it, whatever. But like, you as a person want to make other things. I as a person want to make, you know, more recyclers, different designs or whatever. So I wouldn't want to just be stuck making one thing. So that's how I kind of find. So I don't have my one thing yet, you know, that's mine. But I'm just exploring so far.
And that's good. And I mean, it takes years to get to that level too within your craft. True. So, you know, you said yourself, you're only 4 years into it. But at a certain point, there is going to be, and it's not that everything will look the same, but you'll just have that imprint where people can just tell that's Rob. Yeah. He made that.
Yeah, because like when I was learning from some guys that would do a lot of production work, they would make things that are exactly the same. You know, so they would do the same moves. They would heat it up for this amount of time. They would even count it out. They would say this angle for 12 seconds, this angle for 15, and then do the same move over. And that's how you can achieve to make something the same, by doing literally everything you do the same. So starting off with the same material, using the same flame, you know. So that's one way to do it.
Yeah, and so that's how when you go into a shop, sometimes you'll see several pieces that are like, you can tell they were like made in the same family.
Yeah, definitely.
And they basically are just literally repeating the exact steps. Because like you said, I mean, it's such a dynamic equation where like it's all about the amount of time you spend on a certain thing, a certain temperature, the angle that you're doing it. Are you fuming? Are you adding silver into it? You know, all these other elements that all like are going to play some sort of factor in the end result, whether it's the shape or the color or the design. So to me, that seems very difficult to repeat the exact same thing multiple times. But I guess if you've nailed that process down, then it probably becomes a lot easier.
Definitely. Yeah. If you do the same thing, you get good at it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like in some factories, you know, one person does one thing every day. So you can get really good at like flaring out a foot on a wine glass. If you do that 100 times a day and that's all you do, you'll get pretty good at it, and they'll all probably look the same.
How often is glass made by robots versus humans?
That I don't know too much. I know that like some of the glass, when it's made, like the starting material, it's pulled by a machine. Some people like some of the colored stuff, like this line tubing, that's usually pulled by hand. So there's no robots in doing that.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know about actual like scientific pieces or like production pieces that are like in the industry or whatever, that are like made by robots or anything like that.
Yeah, I was just curious because like sometimes, you can order like Chinese glass online, and you just think you're like, is somebody really just sitting there making this exact piece over and over and over again, or is like a robot or some mold part of the process to make it?
Yeah, I've seen some like videos from like warehouses that are like in China or whatever, and there's one person that's doing the same thing, and he's maybe working on 3 pieces at the same time, but he's doing the same thing, so he, like I was saying, flaring out the foot. This one guy I was watching, he would flare out the foot, and he would like be heating up another one so he can flare it out, and he'll just put it down, and then someone will take it and move it on to the next step. He's just doing that all day.
Well, then that makes more sense.
Yeah,
because I've always wondered.
Like a robot.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Yeah, if you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
You're programmed to do that one thing.
Literally. What about like percolators and stuff? That seems like a very challenging aspect of making like a bong with a percolator.
Yeah, like the tree looking ones or whatever. Yeah, some of those are cut by like, you can use a wet saw. Or I guess some people are using like lasers to cut it too, just to make things easier. So you don't have to actually use like a tool to like heat it up and like pop a hole or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a lot that goes into those too. Some like when we're making our tubes, we can just buy those perks too, because people just make them just to sell. Some of those are usually made in China, but
yeah, that's interesting. Because like when I look at I got a bong, it's like probably like this tall. And it has a tree perk in it. And I'm just like, how did you make the tree perk within this tube?
Yeah.
With that detail, how did that all come together?
Yeah, it's just like you make that one little piece, like either on the bench or on the lathe, and then you attach it to another piece that gets like inserted into the tube, and you do that
you
weld.
melt it in.
Yeah. That's like, I actually got to see that done when the lathe worker, his name's Sam, that he started working at our shop. He showed me how to do that, and I was like, oh, so that's how it's done.
Yeah.
I've seen those. Like when I first started smoking, you would see nothing but tree perk bongs, and I wanted one that had like 4 of them in it or something like that.
Yeah.
But now I see it done. He never really made the perk itself. As far as like the tree one to have like 7 or 13 arms or whatever. But we bought them and like made them with our pieces. So.
Damn. Okay. And what is the best perk? There's so many different designs. What does the best
personal.
job?
I think it's all preference, like whatever you like. Some people like things that are super airy, like if you're pulling on a piece and you can just like, you don't really feel any restriction. Everyone has their own thing, some people don't like a lot of diffusion. So if you got those tree perks that have like a bunch of slits in them, you're making a lot of bubbles, and it might kind of just steal the flavor away from your hit. Some people they'll just take a dry piece and just hit it dry, and that's the way they like it. So
yeah, that's just too harsh for me.
Yeah.
I like my perks, man. I like it diffusing it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's stealing any THC or anything away from it. So
it's just stealing heat.
Heat and just making more bubbles, and maybe some more flavors getting lost in the bubbles. But yeah, it's not as harsh. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, comfort level's got to be a top priority, especially because like a bong, when you're ripping a bong, like you're gonna take a hit to the face, and it's gonna be a strong hit.
Yeah, if you like roast that whole bowl, that's pretty hot.
Yes, it's pretty hot. And so with the fact that the percolator and the water is able to cool that temperature down significantly by the time it hits your mouth, I mean, it just makes it more enjoyable to me. And I've never noticed it not still having flavor.
Right.
I still taste it. I mean, if you fill that motherfucker up,
regardless of good weed, you're still going to taste a good weed.
Especially with good weed, especially now that here in Chicago, I mean, it's...
God, yeah, you can only find good weed, I think, now.
Yeah, I mean, literally, because of the market. Although you also now, in order to buy weed at a shop, you have to pretty much, like, get a reservation.
Yeah, it seems like that. I mean... that's like longer than some dinner reservations waiting in line for.
Yes. Yeah. Well, now it's like just follow their social media page, because otherwise you're wasting your time.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean, it will level out. Right now we're just at that weird space where it's legal. The demand was super high, and they didn't have enough growers, and they definitely don't have enough shops.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have like a number of variables that are limiting the supply, which is a little frustrating. But at the same time, I decided to take my break right as it got legal, which I think is kind of funny, my timing. But I think it's worth it for me, because it's like when I do finally decide to go back to smoking weed, but like doing it like you said, more like a medicine, or treating it maybe the same way that I treat psychedelics, where it's very purposeful when I do them, and it's not super often. And so if I can bring that same level of mindfulness to smoking weed, then when I do it, it'll be way more special.
Yeah. Your tolerance will be down too, you know.
My tolerance is already probably the lowest it's been in a long time. Yeah. I think the longest break I've had since I first started smoking was 4 or 5 months, and it was at a time like post-graduation where I was thinking about trying to get a job, and I wasn't sure if I was going to need to drug test for it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that was like the longest break. So I still am not at that level yet, but I feel like the decision of this break and where my life is currently, I think it's in a totally different place than it was at that point when I took that break.
See, it's like, you know, people, you know, they have a hard time, like, if it's right there, then they probably want to do it. Like, if you know, if I say I'm going to quit weed, and then if I have some weed right there, I'll probably end up relapsing or whatever.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
Probably. So yeah, if it's, you know, but it's all, I think there's that in everyone where they can just be like, it's there, I'm going to say no, and just like wait, you know, kind of thing. Just kind of like me and candy. If I see it there, I go pay for gas and I see the candy bar there, it's like, I'm not going to buy you today.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to buy you forever.
Yeah, you got to hold yourself to it. I find that if I have the supply, then I'm going to fucking do it.
That would be hard. I mean, I've never actually tempted myself by doing that, saying like, I have this big jar of weed and I'm not going to smoke it.
Yeah, well, because it also goes bad over time. It dries out.
Sure.
So there's actually incentive to wanting to use it before the shelf life is bad. But once I finished, this is the only reason why it wasn't January 1st. It was because I still had a little bit of weed left. So I had to like finish it. But I finished it and I was like, all right, I'm not going to buy any. Let's take a break. Let's see where it goes. But I will say, like, I remember my dreams a lot more. And my memory, I think, is a lot better too, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I remember when I took a break, the memory was, like you said, dreams, way more. I can remember them.
Yeah.
They were vivid too. Some of them were just like waking me up. I'm like, you need to chill, brain. Like, smoke some weed, but don't.
Yeah. It's weird how dreams, like, they seem to be suppressed with weed.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about the sleep cycle and how it affects your dreams, or really even just your short-term memory of the dreams, but it really does genuinely, like, you won't remember as many dreams. It's not that you don't have them. You still have dreams, but you don't remember them as well.
Right.
After smoking.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like last night, I went to sleep stoned, for sure, and I went to sleep pretty early. Then I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was just up, got some water, and then I went back to sleep. And I knew I had dreamed, but I did not remember those dreams. And then I went back to sleep, and I woke up like a couple hours later, and I remembered those dreams. So I must have, wore off. And then my next sleep,
reset.
Yeah. And I just knew, because it was only 2 hours that I fell asleep. And I was like, wow, that felt like 15 minutes. It was a dream that I had, like I was back in high school. I was ditching a math class or something like that. It was so strange. I'm like, why am I here? What does this mean? Why?
Yeah. Well, I feel like with a lot of dreams, it's almost like unconscious thoughts that need to just bubble out. And so the dreams are kind of a purge of sorts from your subconscious mind. But it doesn't always make sense. Yeah. And I think it doesn't always mean something. I think sometimes it does. Sometimes if that thing is an important part of your subconscious. But sometimes it's random shit that came up because your brain is random.
I think mine was super random because I don't have anything that's relating to like math, or why would I be ditching math class, or like having weird interactions with like the nurse or something like that.
Yeah.
Just like walking by in the hall, just like, what are you doing? And then me just sprinting and then being
just running. Yeah. You're like, you're being a delinquent.
Why am I in this hallway right now? Like, my locker's all the way over here. It just didn't make sense. And I was just like, it had to be one of those random dreams.
Yeah. No, I definitely don't think that every dream means something.
And I only slept for 2 hours for that dream, like whatever happened in that dream was not related to the dream before that. I know that. So I can't tell what happened from me falling asleep at, I think it was 11:30, and then waking up at 5, and then going back to sleep.
I find that I remember the dreams the most when I wake up and I go back to sleep, but I know that I can't sleep that long, I seem to be somewhat like, I don't even want to say lucid because sometimes I don't realize it's a dream, but I definitely am more aware of what's happening in the dream.
Right.
So that when I wake up, it is just way more vivid in my brain, like immediately after. But if you don't recite it or you don't write it down, you don't remember it later.
Yeah.
Even if you really remembered it when you first woke up.
You have to really care about what you just dreamed like about.
Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to commit it to memory because it's just like, dump that shit.
It's gone.
Right? Well, Rob, this has been awesome. This has been fun.
I'm loving it. This is great.
I'm glad that I was able to have you on and to have you on video so you can finally show off some of these pieces.
Right. I think it's hard to like teach someone about glass without showing
the visual. Yeah, you got to be able to see
all
it.
sight. So
it's 100% sight. But thanks again for taking time out of your day here on this beautiful Sunday.
No problem. Yeah,
it's gorgeous out.
In the sun, right?
Oh yeah,
I think my car said it was 54. So
this for this time of year in Chicago, this is the best you can hope for.
Yep,
so
I only had one jacket on and I had my other layer. So
yep, exactly. Well, awesome. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thank you.
And peace, everybody.
Take care.